Hiya there. So this is a little, it's not a program, but it's a little something that I'm going to give you, Tom, for some issues that Sam has said that you could do with the dressing. So mobility in your arms, in your thoracic, top part of your back, and your glutes as well. So you can follow it as a program, but what I'll do is I'll concentrate more on form of the exercises, and then I'll give you a guide for how many you might want to do. Some of them I'll just do and that'll be enough for you, particularly the mobility ones. But other ones, as you get stronger, because I think particularly the glutes are probably needing strength. That's often why people get pain in the lower back, in the hips, in the back of the hips, in the glute area, because they just need strengthening. We can alleviate pain there with some nice stretches, but it doesn't sound like it's helping you. So it could be that that's not the issue, but the exercises won't do you any harm. They're really generalized. That's what often physios, I'm not a physio, but that's what often physios do, because the same exercises target different issues. There'll be no harm in any of them at all. Tamila's just joining us here as well. So it won't be a program that you can just switch on and do. You might want to make a note of time codes, of the bits that are helpful to you, that you might need revising and just re-showing the form of, and then you'll be able to pause it, do as many as you like. The thing is with any exercise is there'll always be a guide of how many times, how many repetitions, how many times you do it a week and how many repetitions, but it's never a simple thing, because if you've got issues and you start doing 30 bang out straight away, it's not going to help you at all. So it has to be a real personal measure that you decide is helping. Often helpful exercises can go and exacerbate issues. So you'll think, oh my gosh, I can't do that ever again. It's ruined me. But it's not usually the case. It's usually that you've just overdone that thing. And so keeping a real sensible build up to any exercise is really key. So I'll try and give you a bit of a guide as we go. So we're going to start off. And like I say, any of these can be done in isolation to just target certain issue that you have, or you might want to do it as a whole program. It depends what your day is like, what you're doing, what your time frame is at any particular moment in time. So we're going to start stood up. Let me just see. Can't see my feet there. Let's just see if we can see everything here. Yes, we can. So I'm going to just take a breath. And it's always a good idea just to be really nice and calm with the beginning of any of your exercise. Notice we have our feet forward facing and your hips are generally level. So that just means we've got a nice neutral spine where we've got a little curve here. We avoid hunching over. Your shoulder is in line with your hip and your knee there. So we avoid coming out or too far forwards, and your ears in line there as well. So we just start with a gentle breath. And as you exhale, always a gentle lift in your pelvic floor. So just those muscles that you might use to stop you going to the toilet. So exhale and lift and hold those muscles. Breathe in and just nicely relax. We're literally going to start with your hands to your thighs and just taking thumb first upwards. Now, if we've got issues in the shoulder, we might not get high. You just go to where's comfortable for you, and maybe as time gets on and you do the exercises more, then I'm just going to whip this off, then you can get more mobile. That just means higher in the arms or wherever it is you're trying to go with whichever limb. Okay, Now, what we try and do is keep the spine neutral. So you're lifting an arm, but you're not bowing out the chest or the bottom. So you just keep the rim of your pelvis still. So we're not, so say your pelvis is a bowl-shaped bone, we keep the rim of that bowl level. So as your arms come up, we don't tilt the rim of the bowl, rim of the pelvis, and we don't stick out the chest. So the natural curvature of the spine remains the same, okay? So we don't overextend the spine and bulge out the chest, and we don't come in with the shoulders there. So it's just a nice gentle lift. And then if you feel ready, then we can take both arms up. Again, we try and come up in the arms, but not the rib cage. And we think about the scapula as well. So those lovely shoulder blades that are down your back here, we try and keep them close to the ribs at the back, kind of gliding down the back, down your rib cage that goes all the way to the back. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the ribs up this time there. So we've got a big space away from the ribs, the hips away from the ribs. And then as you bring your arms down this time, come back into neutral so your pelvis is level with the floor. But then we're going to take the arms behind us. It's called a scapular squeeze. And what you can do at the same time is just tuck the tailbone under, squeezing your bum. So breath in, take the rib cage up, stick your bum up this time, so we're coming well out of neutral. And it doesn't matter if your arms aren't high, just go to your potential. And then as you bring the arms down, drop the rib cage, start to scoop the coccyx under and squeeze the glutes, because it's these glutes we're just trying to warm up into a nice squeeze so that you can get ready to start strengthening those. So that's a nice exercise just to get you a little bit warm. What else are we going to do? We're going to do some squats, some mini squats to warm up. So your feet are going to be just a little bit wider than your hips. We start nice and neutral and we remain neutral. That just means the chest doesn't come out and neither does the bottom while we do this. So you're going to breathe in, exhale, a little hinge in the hips here, tiny knee bend, keeping the knees hovering the ankles, and then literally come back up. So we're just warming up those thighs, those glutes, breath in at the top, exhale, mini hinge at the hips there, tiny bend in the knees, but notice it's very important for the knees not to come in or bow out. So we keep them in line with the ankles, and you would never overshoot the toe. So your knee would never creep over the toe, and your toes are forward facing. So little hip hinge, little bend in your knee. Kind of concentrate on squeezing your bottom as you come back up. So breath in to come up, exhale, start to lift your pelvic floor as you do that little hinge in the hips, bend the knees, start to think about switching this on. And if it doesn't switch on, then just a tiny flick of the tailbone underneath it just switches it on. Notice the knees haven't caved in, they've not gone to the side, and you push up like you're driving your bottom towards your heels. Okay, and we can actually carry on with the arm lift as you go up, and then as you go down, the arms go up, and as you stand up, your arms come down. Breath out, breathing in. Just check the feet haven't meandered off. You're looking for the outer blade of your foot to be in line with that outer mat there. Now, you can add on a gentle little twist, keeping the hips forwards, and you turn into one shoulder behind you. Breathing in, come up. Exhale as you go down. Exhale as you make a little switch there. Breath in here. Exhale, twist. So your hips stay forwards, but your shoulder goes back. And as I've done this, this is about as many as you might want to do. But you might want to do a deeper squat as well. Once you're nice and warmed up, and once you're ready for getting really deep into the squats. The principle is still the same. You breathe at the top, you exhale, keep the natural curve of your spine, which is fairly straight. Bend the knees, but come much deeper into the squat. So this angle in your knee can actually be 90 degrees. It can even go lower. Squeeze your glutes without your knees poking over your toes. So you sit quite back as if you're sitting on a chair, and then push your bottom down and come back up with a breath. Ready to exhale, hinge your hips. Bring your bottom as if it's sitting on the loo. You can go quite low. Breath in, come back up. If it's too much, then you just do a mini one, okay? But you'll notice as you get very low, you're having to use the big muscles come up, and that's what you want to address. Poor strength in the glutes, which often pain here or in your back can be the reason of. So you want to get some nice strong glutes. Now you want to aim to be working up to about 30 or 40 squats, but I wouldn't do that if you're not used to them. Start with 10 to 12 and then work up to 20. And then the next, I do that every week. So 1 week of 10, 2 or 3 times, not just, even if you're just doing 1 set a week, that's something. But you've got to not do nothing, but 3 to 4 times is really good per week. Start off with 10, 3 to 4 times a week, go up to 20 the next week, and then work up to 30 or 40. Okay, now the other thing I wanted to show you was that you can use a band. I haven't got one here, but you pull a band as you go down, and that's going to address this kind of posture that you might be developing because you're over your desk a lot. So doing this, opening up your chest with a band, addresses this posture. It makes you stronger and shorter in the muscles at the back, drawing you into a more upright, more aligned back. Okay, so instead of this across your shoulders come in line with here, rather than front of this trochanter actually, which is that bone there. You want your shoulder in line with that. So this helps. But I don't want you opening your chest, sticking your bum out. I want nice, strong muscles, opening the band with your back nice and aligned, your pelvis aligned. You're going to take a breath at the top, and you can add those on to your squat. Okay, so taking those down, breath in, back up. Exhale, come down. Breathing in, come back up. So I'm going to just get into sitting. Actually, no, I wanted to just show you that to address your thoracic, a nice way to do that is literally just, as well as the scapular squeeze, which was this that we did, you can also take your thumbs by your thighs there and just literally turn out. Breath in at the top, exhale, turn it out. So your scapula at the back come together. So these draw together as your thumbs go out. It's called it's a type of scapular squeeze. actual scapular squeezes where we take the arms here, just like we did, and we tucked our bottom under there. That's a nice one. There's also one which is like angel arms, where we have the hands just a little bit at an angle to your thighs, and you start to bring them up with a little bow in the elbows. When you get to shoulder level with your hands, you rotate them. And we think about what happens to the scapula. They kind of come together as your palms go up to the ceiling. Bring your arms back to the front and then draw them down. So it's a breath in, bring it up. Exhale, draw them there. Beautiful job. Have your palms just a little bit touched out. Gentle bend in the elbows. Bring it up. Avoid bringing the rib cage up, and just turn your palms up. It just makes the scapula come in. So again, it's addressing this. As your scapula come together in that upright position, you're squeezing your back at the top together. What else did we think about for you? Bow and arrow arms, which is where we literally have the arms up here, and as if we're drawing a bow, the elbow comes into the waist and then the palm, and the elbow goes back. It doesn't go to the side, it comes straight back. Breath into the top and exhale, other arm. Okay, now what we try and do is keep the hips level as that shoulder goes back. And as you get warmed into it, your eyes can follow that elbow. So your hips remain forwards, but your eyes follow your shoulder and your elbow that's going behind you. So you're getting a lovely twist in the top of your back there. And that's called bow and arrow arms. And we can add a band on with this as you get stronger. But really, I think just to get the movement into that spine, this is absolutely sufficient. So it's squeeze the hips forwards, draw the palm, the elbow, then the palm into your waist. And you want to do this, 12 times, build it up to 12 times on each side. And that it should be no effort, but I know these exercises just can get a little bit of getting used to if we've not done that movement before, and if we've got a bit of stiffness there. So maybe do 6 on each side and work up to it, as long as it just kind of slackens you off and makes you feel fresh in your top of your back. That's all you're asking for, really. So hips forwards, shoulder comes back, and your eyes follow that as well. You can do that sat down in like a sitting position. I'll show you now, actually. We're going to come into sitting. So we can sit with the knees hip distance apart and your feet just flowing out there as well. And we can go into the bow and arrow arms in this sitting position. And to get the abs working, we can roll into it. We kind of think of going into a C curve with the spine, where your chin comes to your chest and you flick your tailbone under. It creates this C shape in the spine, which is nice and safe for the back to cream down into. Notice the knees don't cave in as we go down. They stay nice and in line with the hips, and so do your feet. And you'll find that you have to use your abdominals to do this as well. Same principle as stood up, the hips stay forward and the shoulders just glide behind you there. That's your exhale. Breathe in to come back up to the top. So you can build up again 6 to 12 of those on each side. You might want to start off with fewer. You've just got to not overdo it. That's the main thing. We've got lovely A nice thoracic stretch, which you can do in this position as well. It's very much like the mini squat we did. We come into a breath at the top as you take your arms up and above your head as much as you can. It doesn't matter if we're not quite there yet. And then on your exhale, you bring one hand to the same side knee. So it's right hand on right knee. And the left hand just gently comes behind you. Your hips go forwards, but your shoulder makes a lovely turn there. So you're really getting a nice rotation, that helix rotation in your spine. Breath in, come up, and exhale. Draw your pelvic floor up, so the muscles that hold everything in that you would usually let go in the bathroom, they come up as you exhale and as you make the twist. Breath in, everything relaxes a little bit to breathe in back up at the top. You can go on the opposite limb, arm to knee. See how different it feels. You can kind of get some nice tension on that hand there as you flow back. Breath in, come to the top, exhale here. Have a play with it, see what's best for you. If it doesn't hurt, if it feels nice, if it's a nice stretch, it's all good. I wanted to see how this felt for your thoracic as well. Just staying in crossed legs, walking forwards, driving your sitting bones to the floor, and you can walk from one side, kind of squeeze your hip to the floor, and then come down to the other side. And this is a really good stretch if you reach forwards. An even better one for kyphosis, if you've got a really deep curve in the top of your back. We can do puppy pose, which is where you stay at a right angle here, walk your hands back and just press your chest towards the floor. You can actually kind of, if you feel like you're falling, then you roll your coccyx under and it just jams everything, and you kind of get a shape here in your arm that stops you falling down. But if you want to get lower, you stick your bum up, lengthen your hands away. You can get your forehead down or your chin, and you're kind of aiming for the chest. But this is, you know, you have to be quite flexible here. Breathe in, pop your head down and roll your coccyx under, walk back. And just literally going into the cow here is like a nice go-between. So with your wrists underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, just literally coming into this position. We can go into the cat as well. But for you to target that issue in your back, you want to be lowering your back. You want to get into extension, which is ribs away from the hips rather than ribs towards hips. I mean, it's going to be fine, but just to let you know that addressing your issue, it's going to be better here. This is nice as well, but really getting right into it is keeping this at a right angle and reaching super forwards. Okay, stick your tailbone under to lock you, walk yourself back, and we're coming into, I wanted to just show you some piriformis stretch. I'll have to scoot through this. So piriformis stretch is where you can have a cushion under your back, under your head to just feel aligned there. You pop one foot on one knee and then scooping your coccyx under so your lower back goes into the mat. You just lift a leg up here, thread your hand through the space between your legs and you can grab that thigh. So this opens this area here, your piriformis. And you want to stay here on each side for about 30 seconds. To get a deeper stretch, you bring that heel towards your hip. And you can also put in that hand between your legs there. You can grab your shin and that makes an even deeper stretch here. So 30 seconds once you're comfortable. Another important stretch for the hamstrings before we go into the next strengthening exercise is a hamstring stretch, which is just this. So you can get a band if this holding on is too much. You can lengthen the other leg away, but you can keep it here. And again, you would hold this stretch for 30 seconds on each side. And that's before you would do the bridge, which is a lovely extension exercise where you place your heels underneath your knees, which are hip distance apart. You would start off in neutral spine where you've got just a little hole, little curve there, about enough of a curve to fit a grape under there. And you squeeze that grape into the floor with your lower back by scooping your coccyx under. Start to engage your glutes. And we imagine the vertebrae coming off the floor, one nodule at a time. Notice the ankles are directly under the knees here. And we breathe in, and as much as we can, take the arms up and over. And then with the arms here if possible, but it's not a problem, we can bring them back here if it's too uncomfortable. As you get into the exercises, it'll become easier, definitely. You then, from your shoulders or from your neck downwards, we start to drop each vertebrae. They might clonk all together in little groups at first, but moving the pelvis to get the lower back into the mat is key. So you have to bring your pubic bone towards your nose to get the lower lumbar spine right into the floor. Once it's flat into the floor, you need to find neutral, which is, remember, where you've got that grape size hollow in your back. So you just roll your hips towards your toes. You don't want too much of an extension. Your ribs need to be fairly soft towards your hips there. So there's a little gap back in the mat. We just do 2 or 3 of those in class, and that'll be nice mobility for your spine. To get your glutes going, I want you to find a cushion or a block, and you'd start off with your bottom on the floor and just literally squeeze the block or cushion together. You're building up, remember, start off with 10, have a little rest, and then come back, do 10 more, and build it up progressively over the weeks. You're aiming for about 30. You can move up a level, keeping the ankles underneath the knees, come up into this gluteal brace kind of position, and squeeze the block from here. What we're looking for are the hips to be level. So think about a carpenter's spirit level placed across your hips, and they mustn't wonk down. Keep your glutes strong so that that remains level. And again, you're aiming for about building up to 30, start off with 10. And then there's more harder ones that we can do after that. We can start taking the block away and just coming into, you can start, these aren't hard, you can do these straight away. These are pelvic thrusts, just bringing the glutes into off the floor and nice and tight. And then we can even keep the hips level, which is crucial, and take one leg off the floor and do the pelvic floor thrusts with one leg at a time. But it's key to keep the hips nice and level there. There was another exercise that I wanted to show you for just addressing your thoracic. So we come into this sideline position. So you're on your side, you keep your hips stacked, and you bring your hands here, there. Your knees are at the front there, and your feet are in line with your bottom. Your hands are at a right angle to your body, and you bring your arm up and over. It's called open door, And it's squeezing the scapula together at the back there. Keep your hips stacked, but your shoulder falls away. And you can take a look at that hand behind you as it tries to go to the floor. You mustn't force it. Just let the weight of the hand be attracted almost to the floor. So don't worry if it's not going. Forcing it is going to make things worse. Just let it fall. Breathe into the stretch of the arm, giving way to the floor, almost, kind of floats down. And just breathe with it wherever it will reach. Breathe 2 or 3 breaths, just letting it kind of go off. It kind of opens and lengthens, but you don't force it down. Just let it glide down as far as it'll go. Remember, the hips remain stacked. You can take a look at the hand behind you and then bring it back over. We do this 2 or 3 times on each side, and then that's going to really open the chest, close the back, and give you a nice, hopefully nice stretch. So those are some ideas for you to be going on with, and I hope it helps. I hope it alleviates pain, gives you some mobility, and strengthening those glutes is really key. So get squatting, get hip thrusting. All right, Tom, stay safe. Bye for now.